firms derive on average between one-third and one-half of their profits from China. Major American semiconductor and chip makers have warned that they will need to slash their own research and development budgets if they can no longer generate revenue from sales to China. Partly to hedge against these risks, a number of American high-tech firms have begun offshoring research and development so as to avoid de minimis product origin requirements that could trigger export control regulations that would impair their ability to sell products to China in the future. Ironically, even President Trump has complained that the Department of Defense's rising budget requests to counter the China challenge have been crowding out government funding for domestic priorities, like infrastructure. The longer the United States runs down this counterproductive path of unilaterally pressuring Beijing in hopes that doing so will compel China to change, the more America will drain its own sources of strength. No other country in the world is following the United States in adopting a posture of omnidirectional confrontation. In addition to distancing the United States from its allies and partners on China issues, this approach is leading the United States and China to find fewer areas of cooperation, more areas of confrontation, and diminishing capacity for managing tensions. Even after the outbreak of COVID-19, a threat to humanity that in ordinary circumstances would compel the United States and China to come together to exercise leadership in fashioning a coordinated international response, both countries have been unable to find common cause. Their failure to do so will cause lasting harm to both countries, both in their international image and in their inability to protect their own citizens from a global pandemic. In short, the United States is pursuing a losing strategy that will leave it more isolated from friends and more impotent in influencing China's choices the longer it is pursued. This book is designed to light a path for a more constructive approach to responding to China's rise. My argument here is anchored in a judgment that managing China's rise as a peer competitor poses the most direct test of American foreign policy in decades. Our present moment demands detailed discussion of the policy choices facing the United States and its allies and partners, as well as an honest accounting of the trade-offs of various options. What objectives and assumptions should guide U.S. policy? What are China's ambitions, both in relation to the United States and for China's role in the world? What is the distribution of power between the United States and China, and between both nations and the rest of the world? Can America's leading firms out-innovate their Chinese competitors, particularly when Chinese firms are advantaged by state backing? How real is the risk of U.S.-China conflict? What is the objective of American strategy with respect to relations with other major powers? And how can the United States maximally secure its interests in the face of growing competition from China? Long-term structural changes in the power dynamics between Washington and Beijing are not a passing phenomenon, but rather a new feature of competition that is here to stay. The United States and China are racing ahead of everyone else in wealth, power, and prestige, and the gap between them and every other country in the world is likely to widen in the years to come. At the same time, competition between the United States and China is intensifying. Even so, no immutable diplomatic laws of gravity determine that intensifying competition between a rising power and an established power will lead to conflict. Indeed, both the United States and China have strong incentives to avoid conflict, given the catastrophic consequences that would flow to both countries, and indeed the world economy, if such a scenario were ever to materialize. To understand the nature of U.S.-China relations, I propose the concept of competitive interdependence. Competition is the principal feature, and the costs of breaking free of interdependence are prohibitive. Neither country is capable of imposing its will on the other at acceptable cost or risk.